Luke Thomas at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, and you can see behind us the quote-unquote fight of the century is now over, and that means it's time to talk about it. To help me do that is the man to my right. He is the, senior boxing columnist?
Boxing columnist.
Just regular boxing columnist, but he's senior in my heart. Kevin Iole. Kevin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Luke.
All right, so let's start a little direct. How did you score the fight tonight?
I had it 115-113 for Mayweather. There was 2 rounds that I starred on my book that I said could go either way, and I give both of those rounds to Pacquiao. This was a fight where if I hadn't scored round by round, and when it ended, I said, who won? You would say, no question, Mayweather. There were a couple rounds in there where nothing happened, and I gave Pacquiao credit for being the aggressor, but no question, Mayweather deserved the win.
Pacquiao seemed to have some success when he could get Mayweather against the ropes or in the corner, and he had those flurries, but in retrospect, I'm not sure how much that counted, and really, he didn't get a lot of opportunities to do that. Were you surprised at how, we know Mayweather's great, but Pacquiao just seems so offensively muted here.
Well, he says he had a shoulder injury, and he was denied a shot or a couple of shots that would have given him relief. When you see the punch stat, and how that came out is I saw the punch stat, and I said, no way could you ever expect Floyd Mayweather to throw more punches than Manny Pacquiao, but that's what happened in the fight. So I asked somebody about that, said, does that shock you? And they said, well, he had a shoulder injury, and that's how all the bit about the shoulder injury came out. And then I went over to the commission and did some reporting to find out what was going on. So, I don't know the extent of it, but basically Bob Arum said it was the same injury that Kobe Bryant had that ended his season. Well, Kobe Bryant had rotator cuff surgery. So, there was no doctor to confirm that with, and Bob Arum most certainly is not a doctor, but that's what he said. So the best we know is that it was a right shoulder injury. Bob said probably keep him on for 9 months.
Is there any way to attribute how much of Pacquiao being unable to throw the right or missing is directly related to Mayweather's greatness?
Well, I have to give Mayweather a lot of credit. I don't want to sit here and make an excuse for Pacquiao because I think Mayweather fought a Mayweather fight. He did what he always does. He used his jab, he used the right hand. Everything that everybody pretty much said he needed to do in the fight is what he did. He used his legs when he had to get out of trouble. And, Pacquiao needs to throw punches to win, especially against a guy like that. And he didn't throw that kind of volume. When he's just matching Mayweather 1 for 1, he's in big trouble. He needed to be, 2 to 1 or more. This is a guy that's thrown 1,200 or more punches in a fight, and he threw 429 and only landed 81. Very, very poor.
Yeah, in fact, Mayweather outstriking him in volume 2 to 1 almost. That's an insane sort of stat if you really think about it. But people were kind of complaining online. Look, for my money, the fight was important. You got to see who the best fight of the generation was. Unequivocally, that matters, right? But some folks are saying, well, it was boring. What do you say to some of the complaints that say, we were told it was going to be the greatest fight on earth, and it didn't live up to that?
Well, if anybody said that, they weren't reading the pre-fight coverage, because I certainly didn't say that. I said it was going to be a good fight, but I never said it was going to be. I said it was going to be the richest fight. I said it was going to be the most hype fight, the most attention, all that stuff was true. But anybody with any credibility was not saying this was going to be Hagler-Hearns or Ali Frazier or any of those kind of fights. You weren't going to see a 38-year-old and a 36-year-old do that, and not given their styles. Anybody who thought that and bought the fight specifically because of that either was reading the wrong websites, reading the wrong newspapers, or just was in a fantasy land, because that was never going to happen.
Is there any kind of case that Team Pacquiao can make to get a rematch?
The only case they would have is money. I think there's nothing else. Now, if he needs surgery in 9 months, that would be the argument. Hey, you know what? I was there with you, and I had a terrible shoulder. But who wants to see that again? Even if he was injured, I don't think enough of the Floyd fans are going to buy that argument that you're going to be able to sell that fight. So I don't think, Floyd does not have a clear-cut opponent next. There's nobody that stands out and say, yeah, it's going to be that guy. So, maybe they can finagle away, but Luke, I find it hard to believe.
And September's, if you think about it in the boxing world, that's kind of right around the corner in terms of guys getting ready and fights being announced and promoted and so forth. And so what I'm really wondering is, what do you think is next for him if you could really sort of pinpoint it?
If he does fight in September, I think it's got to be Keith Thurman. I think Keith Thurman would be the most logical guy out there. Thurman isn't where he needs to be yet in terms of notoriety. I think he's a very good, very up-and-coming guy, but the world doesn't know him enough yet. But Amir Khan would be a possibility, but he's got Ramadan, so he doesn't fight in September. Maybe Kell Brook, but Brook is even less known because he's British and doesn't fight in the U.S. that Keith Thurman is. So they don't have a lot of great options, and if Pacquiao's on the shelf, he's out. So I would think Thurman would be the guy.
All right, Kevin, we got to get out of here. They're kicking us out. Your coverage has been fantastic for Yahoo this entire time. I'm Luke Thomas. This is Kevin Iole. This has been the MGM Grand Garden Arena Mayweather Pacquiao. We'll see you guys next time on the road.